What's up? Today's video is about a question that I heard on Instagram that I think somebody's laying an egg, that I think is a good question for homesteaders and just people in general. And the question was, why do you have to pay to live on a planet that you were born on? So we'll talk about that today. You chickens are not eating these weeds enough. Eat more weeds. We're all born in a field. We don't have any clothes on. We're just naked. And in the middle of this field, we have to figure out how to survive. What are you talking about, Danny? This doesn't make any sense. We're not born in fields, we're born in hospitals. True. That is true. But I want us to think about it for a minute as our base level of living. Where do we come from? What happens to us as human beings on a planet Earth? So imagine yourself born in the middle of this field. Now, you'll have parents, hopefully. If you don't, you're going to die. That's lesson number one, very early. If you were born in the middle of this field and you didn't have parents, you would die very quickly. You would die probably tonight from exposure to the elements. What a beautiful place to be born among all these wildflowers and ticks and ants and grasshoppers and other things. But these wildflowers are beautiful on the surface. It's not a perfect field, but it's pretty nice. It's wild. But if you sat out here as a baby, you would die. If you sat out here as an adult, you would eventually die. And that's all it would have been worth. Look, it's obvious. It's definitely obvious that if you were just to sit out here and not eat, not drink water, that you would die. So what is the point of that? The point is that in order to live, you must do something. You can't just sit. Sitting is not the base state of life or how we continue our lives. You must go get water. You must go get food. You must go find shelter. Yeah, we know about water. It comes from a water filtration system and it gets pumped back to our house from the city. I don't understand. And we have shelter. We bought a house. It's a condominium. You know, there's a bunch of us that live here and it's our shelter from the sun and the rain, and we stay in there all the time. We barely even come out. And then we know about food. We go to the grocery store and we just get our food. It's just there. So there's basically unlimited food, and it just comes from a truck or something somewhere. And so we've got food, so we got all that covered. So let's stop worrying about the basics and let's talk about something else. But you're born in this field. So before we can talk about something else, we have to talk about the basics. You don't have a home. You don't have water. You don't have food. You have a path to the woods. You could choose this path. There's a lot of sun out here. The sun will kill you. The rain will kill you. The exposure to the elements will kill you. How do you survive? Well, you move from there to here, sometimes a little bit of shelter. Now you've done work. So first things first, the reason why I'm talking about this stuff is because we had a conversation, I saw a statement that said, why do we have to pay to live on a planet where we were born? And it's a complicated question because it's probably not asking the question that I'm answering. It probably is talking about taxes and things like that. And that's a good question, and it is an important question, and one that we should talk about at some point in time, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about the fact that we're on this planet, the fact that we exist, and it is a fact. And what does that mean for us? What do we have to do to survive on this planet? Now we'll say, why should we have to do anything? Now some people will say none of that matters. None of it matters, Danny, because we don't have to worry about those things because we live in a society. Well, we do live in a society. And we created that society after we did all those base things. After we came out of a field, or really probably born more in the woods, maybe in a cave. The basic necessities in life are shelter, food, water, and sleep, which kind of goes along with shelter, honestly. There's a lot of bugs up here. Speaking of shelter, let's get back to it. I can't take it out here in this wild west here. I would like a breeze, to be honest. We just try to survive on this planet, but we have to work to survive. Now, work is basically any movement that you do that creates an ends to the means in which you're doing it. So, for instance, me recording this video is work. I'm working towards this, so it's work. But this work doesn't feed me. So how would I get food out of this video? I can't. It's a video. It doesn't provide food. Especially because we don't have enough subscribers. So, like and subscribe if you are interested in this kind of stuff and are enjoying this video. Thank you. And I'm at the edge of the woods. Now, I need to find food. You see any? There's probably some stuff I could eat that my body probably wouldn't process very well. There's some stuff that'd probably kill me if I ate it. But there's not much food here. So I have to keep working. And the truth is, I probably won't find a whole lot of food in there. I see food. I see lots of food. I see chickens that I could eat, but they lay eggs, which I do eat. I see rabbits, which also I could eat. I also see a vegetable garden down there, which has tons of fruits and vegetables that I could eat. I see a chicken tractor that I use to put in meat birds so that I could have chicken meat to eat. Did you see any of this in that field? That's because this is what happens when you work for your food. But this is direct working for your food. You're kind of creating your own food directly, which is different than taking any money from this video and buying food. People who YouTube full-time and don't garden or farm, which is most of them, by the way, they still eat. How? They trade. You hear that off in the distance? That's the sound of food production. It's also what you're seeing right here. What you see over there. What you see over here. But something that's commonly misunderstood is that you do not have to grow your food to eat. You don't have to grow your food to eat. You can trade someone else goods and services for food. Interesting. But that's not how we started. And it's very important that we understand that that's not how this starts. It starts with growing it. But really, it starts with being in a field all alone. Somebody had to go out into those woods and fields and travel around the world to find potatoes. Somebody had to go in and around the world to find corn. Somebody had to do work to change it over time so that it would grow in different climates and environments. And that work is what paid for their food. That work is what paid for their survival. Now, this is important when we come full circle. I'm going to keep coming back to the original statement. Is why do we have to pay to be on a planet that we were born on? Pay and work are related to each other. But work does not have to be direct. This is important. You may not think it's important. You may say, well, duh, of course that's the case. But it's very important that you truly understand the fundamentals of this in order for why do we have to pay on a planet to live, it makes sense. Now, some of you may already be getting this, but others may not. So I'm going to keep going. I wonder if the camera can pick up how many bugs are flying around me right now. It's super hot out here. So what is pay? Pay is something that is given to someone else, I guess, or taken. You know where I'm going there. Pay is something that's given by somebody else in trade for goods. So for instance, if I give you $1 for an apple, I have traded $1 for an apple. Now you say, well, this money stuff doesn't make any sense. I don't even know why we have money. Well, because this video can't be traded for an apple. I can't give you this video and you give me an apple. At least it's not that easy. But if an advertiser can earn money on a video and then give that money to, say, YouTube, and then YouTube can give that money to me for helping generate that revenue, I can then trade that $1 for an apple. That's how a video can turn into an apple. The dollar is representation of the trade value over a group of people that have disparate contributions to the value in the system. Now, at a root level, it's just like this. We have tomatoes. How many tomatoes would you give me for a corn cob? I guess it depends on how much you want a corn cob. Maybe you don't like corn, in which case you would trade 0 tomatoes. You would keep your tomatoes. Maybe you don't have many tomatoes. Maybe, though, you have so many tomatoes you don't know what to do with them all, and you don't have any corn. Then you may give me 10 tomatoes for 1 corn cob. Now, it takes less room to grow tomatoes as an individual than it does corn. So from my perspective, I may say it's better for me to grow tomatoes than it is to grow corn. But if now both of us are growing tomatoes, then nobody has any corn, and everybody has so many tomatoes, they don't need to trade with anybody. And if you don't need to trade, then you have more tomatoes than you need. Everybody's got more tomatoes than they need. And it's useless. It just goes to waste. It rots. Because tomatoes don't last forever. This is where the dollar comes in. Because the dollar is a currency. And a currency is manipulated, don't get me wrong, it's a big mess. But we have to understand a basic understanding of why currency exists. Currency exists because tomatoes rot. Because this video you can't eat. It exists because the truck driver who's driving isn't making the food. But he is doing a service. But he needs to convert that service into food. Now you can say, well, we can just give him a piece of it. That's essentially what you're doing. But you're giving him a piece of what he's delivering. But what if he's delivering refrigerators? It's not food. You give him a refrigerator every time he delivers? Well, he doesn't need that many refrigerators. So the purpose of money is simply so that you can trade for things that are perishable whenever you need to trade for them. Duh. It seems really simple, but most people don't truly understand this concept. They view money as a number in a bank account in which, it's just magical. I can't blame you for believing that because that's how the government works. The government believes it's an endless credit card. And money you just print out more money, and that's okay because if you just print out more money, then you can make more trade, right? It's true you can, theoretically. But the problem is that once that print out more money becomes, you can just have money, then why would I grow tomatoes? Why would I grow corn at all? If I can just get money, in which I can trade for the people who are still creating goods and services. It's a lot of work to grow tomatoes. It's a lot of work to grow corn. If I can just get money, I don't need to grow corn. So I won't. I'll just take money. Now, this is how you know people don't truly understand this portion of the system. It's because they believe that if you just print more money, then you can just buy more things. They truly believe that. They may not say that. They may say, oh, no, that's silly. That's not what I mean. I just mean that, we should just have basic income. Now we're getting a little deep. But we'll worry about that later. And those chickens are laying some eggs over there, man. It's gold. So pay is what we get when we work as a result of our work, in which we can trade pay for the work of others. Something just flew past me. I don't know what it was. So you say, well, Danny, no, some people just don't work. The CEOs, they don't work. They don't do anything. The traders, the Wall Street guys, they don't work. That's not real work. I'll say, well, making a video is not real work. Building refrigerators isn't real work. Why not? Why? Who determines what real work is? Well, the truth is real work is determined by the trade value that someone else is willing to give for the work that you provide. So everything's work. If you get paid, you earned it. Unless there's some fraud involved. But if you get paid for it, you've got a contract, you negotiate the contract, and you get paid that amount of money, that's how much you earned. That's how much you're worth. Because worth is really irrelevant. Because worth is just a perception of you on how much more you should make, whereas your value is actually a perception of others. For instance, if I grow corn, I may believe that you should give me 50 tomatoes for my corn, and that everybody should give me 50 tomatoes for my corn, and I can totally do that. I can sit there and say, all right, I'm not going to sell a single corn until somebody gives me 50 tomatoes for it, and all your corn will rot. That's all that happens to you. You don't progress anything. Your corn just rots. Or you eat a lot of corn and you get sick of corn. But that's how that works. So I try not to look at anybody else's job or anybody else's contribution, as long as it is a contribution, into the system as negative. I think every person contributes in their own way to the system. People on YouTube contribute to the system. People who grow food contribute to the system. People who work in IT contribute to the system. People who build refrigerators. People who truck. People who are leaders in companies. People who are CEOs. People who are CFOs. People who are accountants. People who are secretaries. People who work at a food plant. People who slaughter pigs. People who everybody. People who work. Those are the people that are key to survival on this planet, and that's why we must pay and why we must work on this planet, is because that's how this planet is set up. It's not how society's set up. This planet is set up that way. If I don't eat, I die. If I don't have shelter, I die. If I don't have water, I die. Now, the planet has the resources there, but they are not readily available to you. They don't just jump out and meet you in the field. You got to go find them. You got to go get them. You got to go work to get those things. You have to compete against other people with those things as well. If we didn't have a society built up where we did farming and things like this, where we practice this, you would be fighting your neighbor, maybe to the death, to survive. Now, how long, when you say you kill your neighbor and you win and you get the food, you get the water, you get whatever, how long before somebody else comes along that's tougher than you that gets the water? That's not the world you want to live in. That's the reason why we have a society. This is the reason why we built this. But we cannot forget where we came from. We cannot forget the basics of our life stems from survival needs. Everything. When we're talking economics, and we're talking about systems and governmental systems and all these things, if you don't understand the basics of what you need to survive and how you have to get them, none of that other stuff matters. None of your economic theory makes any difference in the world. All that matters is how do we get food, how do we get water, and how do we get shelter, right? And if your idea is that those things just magically appear out of nowhere, you're just as disconnected as the person who is the CEO who may feel entitled to everything in the world. I'm going to end my rant on that. Not today, Satan. So next time you're worried about a system and saying, boy, if it wasn't for these people, this system would be great. The only people that are detrimental to a system where you trade for services and we get the things that we need are the people who do nothing. The people who do not work. The people who do not contribute to society in a meaningful way that is valuable to other people. And by value, I mean people that are willing to trade their money that they got from trading the basics with other people. Food, shelter, clean water. Start there. Some people say that nature provides everything that you need. That is not totally a true statement. Nature provides the building blocks for everything that you need. But it requires that everything that you need be worked in order to get it. You need shelter, but there's not a whole lot of natural shelter out there. You need water. There's not a whole lot of clean, drinkable water out there. You have to prepare that water to be drinkable. There's not food, not much growing out here. But there's seeds, there's ground. And if you work, you can have all the things you need, all the basics that you need. There's water in the ground that you can find if you dig a hole deep enough. Nature does provide these things, but not without work. It is not natural for things just to be given to you. They all have to be earned. And that's really the lesson of everything out here on Homestead DNA. It's my opinion that you should just rethink about everything that you believe and everything that you have fundamental beliefs about. And this is to anybody out there, about economics and economy and society and all those things, as if you started off being born in a field with nothing, how does that work? And then base all your theories off of that. And with that, I appreciate you guys stopping by. Again, it was a long kind of a rant video. We try not to get too political around here or anything, and I don't think it was political. It's not meant to be, but it's meant to be about how the world works, which is what homesteading is really supposed to be, is to get back to the basics and back to how the world actually works. That's kind of the general philosophy of self-sustainability, but that's a general economic philosophy as well. So if you guys like this, definitely hit like and subscribe. And as my shirt says here, give more than you take. Because the truth is that you can give a lot more if you give more than you take. And if everybody does that, then we won't have any problems with economics or anything else, or survival or any of those things. The only time we have problems is when people take more than they give. And you may have a determination that some people are gaming the system and all that stuff, and maybe they are. But the truth is, as long as you're doing something that someone's willing to voluntarily trade you money for, you earned it. Period. Now the involuntary stuff, that's a different subject. I'll talk to you guys later.